Sarah Mitchell sat on the same bench she'd called home for the past 6 months. Her clothes were worn, but clean. She made sure of that. At 42, life had dealt her cards she never expected. A husband's death, medical bills that swallowed her savings, and a series of unfortunate events had left her here on Maple Street with everything she owned in 2 shopping bags. But Sarah had something money couldn't buy. She had eyes that still saw people, not just faces, passing by. She had a heart that still felt, even when the world had forgotten her. It was a Tuesday afternoon in late September, the kind of day where the sun feels gentle and the air smells like change is coming. Sarah was watching the neighborhood children play when she noticed little Emma Rodriguez, maybe 4 years old. With dark curly hair and bright blue sneakers that lit up when she walked, Emma lived in the brick apartment building across the street. Sarah had seen her mother, a young woman who always seemed to be rushing somewhere, probably juggling work and motherhood like so many others. Emma would sometimes wave at Sarah, and Sarah would wave back, a small connection in a disconnected world. That Tuesday started like any other, but around 3 in the afternoon, everything changed. Sarah smelled it first. Smoke. Not the kind from a barbecue or fireplace. This was different, sharp, dangerous. She looked up and saw dark smoke billowing from a second-floor window of Emma's building. Flames licked at the curtains, growing angrier by the second. People started gathering, pointing, shouting. Someone yelled that they'd called 911, but Sarah's eyes found something that made her blood run cold. There, in the window of the burning apartment, was Emma. Her small face pressed against the glass, tears streaming down her cheeks, her mouth opened in a silent scream that Sarah could feel in her bones. Time slowed down. Sarah heard someone say the fire department was 10 minutes away. 10 minutes. That little girl didn't have 10 minutes. Without thinking, without hesitating, Sarah dropped her bags and ran. Her worn sneakers pounded against the pavement as she crossed the street. People shouted at her to stop, that it was too dangerous, but their voices were just noise. All Sarah could see was Emma. The front door was already hot to the touch. Sarah pulled her jacket over her hand and pushed through. Smoke filled the hallway, thick and choking. She dropped low, remembering something she learned years ago. Clean air stays near the floor. She crawled up the stairs, each breath burning her lungs. The door to Emma's apartment was ajar, heat radiating from it like an oven. Sarah pushed through, calling Emma's name. The living room was engulfed in flames, but she could hear crying from the back bedroom. Sarah wrapped her jacket around her face and moved through the smoke. She found Emma huddled in the corner, clutching a stuffed rabbit, frozen with fear. Sarah scooped her up, held her tight against her chest, and whispered, "I've got you, sweetheart. Close your eyes and hold on to me." Getting out was harder than getting in. The flames had spread, blocking their original path. Sarah's mind raced. There was a back stairwell, rarely used, filled with storage and old furniture. It was their only chance. She carried Emma through the smoke, feeling the heat sear her arms, her back. The stuffed rabbit fell from Emma's hands, but there was no going back. Each step felt like a mile. Sarah's lungs screamed for air, her vision blurred, but she kept moving. One step, then another, for Emma. For this child who deserved to grow up, to have birthdays, to know love and joy and all the beautiful things life could offer. They burst through the back exit just as sirens filled the air. Sarah collapsed on the grass behind the building. Emma still in her arms, both of them coughing, gasping, alive. Paramedics rushed over. Someone wrapped a blanket around them. Emma's mother arrived hysterical with relief, dropping to her knees and pulling Emma into her arms, sobbing thank yous that Sarah barely heard. Sarah was treated for smoke inhalation and minor burns. The hospital wanted to keep her overnight, but she refused. She had no insurance, no way to pay. She just wanted to leave quietly, the way she'd lived for the past 6 months. By the time she returned to Maple Street the next morning, her bench was surrounded by news vans. The story had spread. Homeless woman saves child from fire. They wanted interviews, wanted her story. But Sarah slipped away. She didn't save Emma for recognition. She did it because it was right. 3 days passed. Sarah had moved to a different part of town trying to avoid the attention. She was sitting in a small park when a black car pulled up. A man stepped out, tall, maybe 50, with silver hair and a suit that spoke of success. He looked around, scanning faces until his eyes landed on her. He walked over, slowly, respectfully. "Sarah Mitchell?" She nodded, wary. "My name is David Rodriguez. Emma is my granddaughter." Sarah's breath caught. She saw it now, the same eyes Emma had. David sat down beside her, his voice thick with emotion. "I've been searching for you for 3 days. My daughter told me what you did, how you ran into that fire when everyone else just watched, how you saved my granddaughter's life." Sarah looked down at her hands, scarred from the burns. "Anyone would have done the same." "But they didn't," David said softly. "You did. And I need you to know that Emma asks about you every day. She wants to thank the angel who saved her life." David reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. "I'm not here to insult you with money. I'm here to offer you a chance. I own a company, Rodriguez Industries. We build homes for people who need them. I could use someone with your courage, your heart. There's a position managing our community outreach program. It comes with a salary, benefits, and housing." Sarah stared at him, unable to speak. "I've learned something in my 60 years. Real wealth isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in character, in doing what's right when it costs you everything. You have that wealth, Sarah. More than I ever had when I started out with nothing but determination." Tears rolled down Sarah's cheeks. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll come meet Emma tomorrow. Say you'll give yourself the fresh start you deserve. Say you let us pay forward the gift you gave our family." Sarah thought about that moment in the fire when every instinct told her to turn back, but her heart pushed her forward. Maybe this was life's way of rewarding, not her, but the goodness that still existed in the world. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." David smiled, and Sarah saw in his eyes the same light she'd seen in Emma's: hope, gratitude, and the unshakable belief that kindness matters. 6 months later, Sarah had an apartment, a job she loved, and regular dinners with Emma's family. Emma called her Aunt Sarah and still talked about the day her angel saved her life. Sarah learned that sometimes you have to walk through fire, literally or figuratively, to find your way home. And sometimes the smallest act of courage can change not just one life, but many. Because in the end, we're all just people trying to do our best. And when we choose kindness, choose bravery, choose to see each other as human beings worthy of saving, that's when miracles happen.